Hey everyone, Steve from Fast Product Photography Services here. After you finish this video, if you need any product photos taken for your Amazon products, or really anything e-commerce, come visit us at Fast Product Photography using the link in the description. Thanks. Okay everyone, so today I'm going to show you a couple different ways to cut out a background around a product, specifically to get it on a white background. I suppose you could use any color you want, but we're going to look at three different ways to cut out around a product and make it essentially a perfect image like this. We're going to go from this with the dull colors and the grayish background to a little bit more vibrance and perfectly white background. So let's get started. Okay, and typically when you first start, the image will be locked, so you have to go in and click on the little lock to unlock it before you can do anything to it. So we're going to start with what I would say is the easiest one for this particular application, and that would be if you went into the magic wand tool. So what you have to do is you go up to the paintbrush up here, the quick selection tool, and you right click on it, and then you scroll over to where it says magic wand tool. And then all you have to do is go to any point within the image and click on it, and then it will, for the most part, select everything for you. So what you need to do to complete this selection, because obviously we want the whole thing to be removed, we don't just want a portion of it to be removed as is currently shown. So we're going to go back into the quick selection tool, and we're going to right click again, and we're going to go to where it says quick selection tool, and we want it to be on the plus sign up here, and we want to make sure that the pixel size is appropriate. Sometimes if it's really small like that, you can see how it's just basically a pinpoint, and it still works, but it's just not quite as effective. So we want to make sure that that is an appropriate size for the pixelation on what we're adding to. So you can see how much faster it selects it for us there. And in this case, we want to get rid of that section as well. We want it just to be the hand model and the cup. So we're going to go in and we're going to do the same thing. So just click and drag, and you can see how it didn't quite get everything, and then just a little bit more, and there you go. Now it's perfect. So you want to make sure that you did the correct selection. So in this case, you'll see the dotted line going around the product that you want. And then to make sure that is the external selection, you want to make sure that you see the dotted line around the border of the image as well. So now all we would have to do is click delete, and there you go. It's gone. We now have a transparent background. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to hit Control D to deselect. And now, rather than using the magic wand tool, we're going to do the whole thing with the quick selection tool. So we're just going to drag right over the whole thing like such. And you can see how for the most part it did everything for us again. We're going to go and we're going to get rid of that. Same thing, hit delete, and there you go. Now something to be noted, I would say, I'm going to do undo there, and I'm going to do, let's say that we didn't want this portion to be removed, right? So now what we have to do is we have to go up here and hit on the negative paintbrush, and we can go back in here and we can bring that back just by going right over it like such. And it's not going to be perfect when you do it this way, but at least you get it back in there and then you adjust afterwards. So that's what you have to do to bring a section back in there, but we're just going to get rid of it for now. You hit delete, and there you go. You hit Control D to deselect, and you've got your image on a perfectly white background. So let's go, and I'm just going to undo that again, and I'm going to do Control D. Now what we're going to do for the final one is we're going to use the pen tool. And in this instance, what I would like to do, just for the sake of going around, the whole selection here, I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to start off with the standard pen tool. We're also going to get into the curvature pen tool, but for now, we're just going to start with the standard pen tool. And what you want to do is you click to make your first selection, your first dot, and then you can see how the next dot, it just continues the selection along. And this isn't going to be perfect by any means. I'm just kind of going along just so I can uh, make sure that the video is in a timely manner. So let's start to use the curvature pen tool in this space. So you go over to the pen, right click, and you go to curvature pen, and, oh, sorry. In order to regain the path that you created, you got to go and click on the last spot that you did, and you can see how you're back there. And if you wanted to go off of a different point, you could go click on another data point that you had already done. But in this one, we will obviously want to continue the path. So in order to do the curvature pen, we're just going to select the next spot, for example, right? And then you can see how this will automatically do the curve, and it kind of depends on how you want things to be. You have to kind of play around with this a little bit, but it's really, really great for these sort of applications where you're going around different bends. And you can see how nicely that did that. You know, it's not going to be quite as pixelated, not quite as blocky, and that always ends up being really nice. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep going here, and I'm going to get back into the curvature pen so we can very, very easily go along this line here. And I'm going to show you how that goes. So all we're going to do is we're going to click one there, and then we're going to click there. And just like that, you got that perfect curvature. I'm sorry, I'm kind of getting out of frame here. But it's very, very simple to do. You just go around the whole thing. We're going to go back to the curvature pen, and we're going to just make it look real nice. I mean, it's not going to be perfect, obviously. I'm a little bit crunched for time. And you can see how you just kind of finesse your way around the whole thing. And it's just so nice for a long curve like that rather than messing around with all of the different dots. You just have to do 2 dots, and you see how great that is. It just uh, does the whole thing for you there. And a lot of the times when you do something like this, I'll show you the difference of how inconsistent you can be going around that curvature with a bunch of little dots as compared to you do one big curvature and bam, it's just right along there, and it's just so great. And this is what you can do when you go from a big curve to a small curve like this. It can really get things out of whack. So a lot of times it's best to just reset it by doing a small regular pen tool to essentially reset the curve, and then you can go back to smaller dots just to get a little bit more accurate with your curvature. And um, I'm just gonna speed this up because I know that this is probably getting a little bit monotonous, but you see how easy things can be made with the curvature tool, and it automatically goes the opposite way, which is really, really great. And uh, you know, it's such a great tool to be able to do that, and it really, really makes things quick, and it makes things easy, and ultimately, I think that's what we're looking to do. So this is one of the most important parts. So once you finish your selection, you want to connect the last dot to the first dot, and now what you have is a path here, okay? And we don't ultimately want a path. We want this to be a selection. So what we need to do is we need to go over to the tabs here, Layers, Channels, Paths. Click on Paths. Now, hit Control and hold Control and click on the outline of the image, and it automatically turns into a selection. But as you can see, this is an internal selection, like we talked about before, because there's no dots going around the edge of the image. So what we need to do is we need to go to Select on the top, Inverse, and it will automatically change it to the external selection which we're looking for. And then we can hit Delete, and there you go. It's the same result, just, of course, this was a much, much more detailed, much longer version of using the quick selection tool. But sometimes images aren't this easy to do. Sometimes they're very detailed, and oftentimes if the colors of the product are similar to the background, then the quick selection tool just won't be able to do it for you. So That it's just a good tool to know to be able to use the pen tool in addition to the quick selection tool. And a lot of times you can pair them together and that'll work as well. So we're going to go back into the layers now. And in order to put the white background in there, we have to go down to this moon cookie looking circle, left click on that, go up to the top where it says solid color, and it's going to default to whichever color you had selected in your color uh, wheel up here. And you're going to go ahead and move this just by clicking anywhere to the upper left hand corner for it to be perfectly white. Drag that layer down below your uh, product image layer, and now you've got this perfect white background with your product. But here's the thing. Let's look at this compared to the original one. You can see how much more vibrant that is, how much more color there is, where this one is more dull. And when you're putting your products on Amazon, eBay, your Shopify website, whatever the case may be through e-commerce, you don't want your pictures to be dull. You want colors to really pop. So in this case, what we're going to do is specifically click on the product layer because we're going to adjust the color slightly. And if you're selected on the background white layer, we don't have any reason to adjust those colors. So we want to make sure that we are on the product image and go up to where it says adjustments. And you could adjust the brightness if you wanted to, but in this case, we're going to go over to where it says vibrance. And the top one is going to adjust the vibrance. And you can see how it already changes the colors. And I did that slowly. I'm going to hit undo now, and you can see the change. So I'm going to go back, I'm going to adjust the vibrance up, and now I'm going to adjust the saturation up, and that's where you can really, really see some difference. And you don't want to overdo it because it can make things a little bit funky, but it's nice to just give it a little bit of vibrance. And now you can see we're pretty similar to where we were in that first image. And things really look great at this point. You can see how we have some nice crisp lines around the image. It's not perfect there. We could make adjustments, but this was mostly for demonstration purposes and to try to get things done really quickly for you. But that's it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. There's a lot packed in this, but those three strategies for cutting out products or whatever you're using to put it on a colored background, or even just to create that specific selection as a layer to put it on, something else. It's really, really helpful and it's really, really useful to have. So hopefully you all enjoyed the video and thanks for watching.